wanted to take some time today to talk about what I think is one of my most boring lenses that I own. This is my Sony 7200 f4 Mark I, and I've been using this lens for about a year now. I've been using it for mostly sports photography and event coverage, and for those purposes, it's been really great. It excels at allowing me to get good images and getting the images that I need for that event that I'm being paid to cover. Long field of view, distant, removed from the scenario that I'm shooting. They're very mediocre shots, they're not great by any means, but they're shots that I need to have because I'm being paid to get them. This is a very functional, does exactly what I need it to do kind of lens. It's a professional tool. And I think for that, it's amazing, it's worth the price. At this point, over the last year of owning it, I've actually made a profit off of purchasing this lens. And so if I eventually sell it again for a bit of money, I will definitely be at a positive for a financial investment in this lens, which is really great because this lens I have not had as much of a connection with as I had with some of my other lenses. It feels more like a professional tool that I have to have. And obviously for that it's great, and I think it works very well. It does its job, does what it says it's going to do. But in that sense, it's also very boring. It doesn't get me the portfolio shots that I'm advertising myself with. And I think because of that, I've lost a little bit of interest in this lens. It's not as interesting to me as some of my other lenses that are more consistently getting me shots that are my favorite ones to deliver, my favorite ones that I'm excited to post, my favorite ones that I'm excited to print and put in a photo album somewhere. And I don't think it has anything to do with this specific lens. If I had the top of the line version of it, I don't think I'd feel much different about it other than that I spent a lot more money on it. And therefore it'd be a lot harder for me to make a profit off of owning that lens. But I also don't think it's necessarily just the 70 to 200 focal length range. I do think beyond about a 135mm, it all starts to feel the same and you're just so distant and removed from whatever you're shooting anyway that it doesn't really matter. Although I will say that 135mm, 100mm, 70mm, I've actually felt very at home at those focal lengths. If you are actually close enough to the action, 135mm is going to give you some really great tight shots. I got some really great shots of the football coach that I did a documentary on last year when I was off on the sidelines pretty close to him, kind of just outside of the group that he was talking to and coaching. This lens has gotten me some really great shots. It absolutely can get me those portfolio shots and it can get me interesting shots. But I think that for the most part, it's reliable and consistent in getting me mediocre shots. For me, that just makes it so uninteresting and so boring to use because I want to be creative. I want to do stuff differently. I want to do my best work is what I want to do. And the 7200 doesn't feel like it allows me to do that sometimes. It's a little bit of a conflicting lens for me because I don't entirely love owning one or using one, but I kind of have to have it for the work I'm being paid to do. I think that once you get beyond about 135mm, the way that everything feels the same is that you're just so far away from what you're shooting that you're just trying to make up for being far away. You're trying to get closer without actually getting closer. And there's no replacement for actually being there to get the shot. Getting close and shooting wide, and when I say wide, I mean 35 or 50mm, there's just no replacement for that. If you're shooting at 200mm, it's just never going to feel the same. And just as an example of that, here's a couple of shots from a golf tournament that I did this year and last year. Last year I didn't actually have this 7200 at the time, and I was shooting almost entirely in my 24-70 the whole week. And there was a lot of times where I was actually able to go up on the green with the golfers. I was pretty close, and so I was able to get a lot of great shots at about 35, 40, 50mm. And so if you compare that to some of the shots that I've gotten this year with the 7200, there's a couple that are pretty good, but they're just so distant and removed, and you never feel connected to the golfers in the scene, and you never get any context around them. You never get to see the course or what's going on around them, all of the spectators behind them, the impressive backdrop that we have. It's just kind of wasted. Now obviously I'm glad I got those shots because I can deliver those, and those types of shots, it's good for variety to get both when I'm delivering those to a client. But for my personal work, I would just rather have the wider ones. Now, I think the best way that I've found to use the 7200 is to use it at about 135mm, 100mm, 70mm, maybe 200mm. You can still kind of do this, but it starts to get too long of a focal length beyond about 135 from what I've found. I can use it very similarly to how I use my wider lenses, where I'll try to ground myself in a perspective. I might put foreground elements like a person's shoulder and look over their shoulder, to look with them at something. I like to shoot the backs of people's heads a lot because I can use where they're looking as a general guiding point towards something I'm actually photographing as the subject. And so there's a lot of interesting things I like to play with that in my work, and I can kind of carry that over a little bit with the 7200, albeit with things being a little more out of focus and a little bit more confined because of the longer focal length. But I find this is a really effective strategy for covering sports because it allows me to bring in the elements that make my work unique and the elements that bring a perspective into the photo, as far as putting the viewer in a specific spot in the scene with another person, rather than just no foreground, no real background, and just a person and bokeh, and that's it. It's been an effective strategy for making a lot of my sports photos better when I'm able to do it. If I can shoot over a ref's shoulder, I just love that so much more, even if they're out of focus and they're not really a center of the photo. Just that little detail makes the photo so much better. But other than that, and especially when I'm not doing that, I just never connect with the photos I'm taking on this lens very much, and the video footage it's okay. It's never great. But with all that said, I do still really like this lens. This specific Sony lens actually does everything I need it to. It was a great price for the used price that I got it. It's in good condition, and it's been just very useful to me all around. It's been reliable and consistent to get the shots that I needed it for. And at the end of the day, that's all a lens really needs to do, so I don't think I can really be sad about this purchase or angry at this lens for any good reason. Those are just some thoughts I had about my 7200 lens, about how it's been just a less interesting lens for me and kind of a boring lens in my arsenal of lenses that I have options for. But with that said, thank you for watching and have a great day.